Power doesn't need to shout. It doesn't need to announce itself or seek validation. True power walks into a room and changes the energy before a single word is spoken. And yet, most men chase the opposite. They chase applause, visibility, loudness. They think domination is about being seen, when in reality, it's about being felt. This is the beginning of your transformation. Not into someone louder, but someone heavier. Heavier in silence, heavier in presence, heavier in power. Let me ask you something. Have you ever walked into a room and felt the energy shift? Not because someone said anything, but because of who was there. That's not magic. It's not luck. And it's certainly not charisma. It's aura. Engineered, constructed, earned. And Machiavelli understood this centuries ago. He saw what most people still fail to grasp today, that the most dominant man is not the one with the loudest voice. It's the one who doesn't need to speak to be obeyed. This is not about faking confidence. This is not about pretending to be someone you're not. This is about becoming someone so deliberate, so self-possessed, so psychologically imposing that people unconsciously adjust their behavior around you just to avoid your disapproval. That's real power. And it doesn't come from muscles. It doesn't come from shouting or flexing or performing. It comes from atmosphere. You become the gravity in the room. Let's break this down. Aura begins long before you open your mouth. It begins in silence, stillness, restraint. Most people try to fill space. They overcompensate, they overshare, they need the room to validate them. You subtract. You subtract noise. You subtract neediness. You subtract performance. And what's left is presence. You must become felt, not explained. When people look at you, they should wonder what you're thinking, not because you're mysterious on purpose, but because your energy doesn't offer answers. It offers questions. You sit still. You move deliberately. You pause before speaking. And when you speak slowly. Like every word costs you something. You train yourself not to flinch, not to nod excessively, not to fidget like everyone else. Stillness is your weapon. Stillness unsettles. And in that unsettled silence, you gain power. Machiavelli wrote, "Everyone sees what you appear to be. Few experience what you really are." Understand this. The moment they know you, they can predict you. And if they can predict you, they can control you. Which means you must become unreadable. The common man wants to be understood. The Machiavellian man wants to be misinterpreted. Because when people fill in the blanks, they do it with fear. Speak in fragments. Let your words trail off. Let your sentences feel incomplete, unfinished, uncertain. Let them guess what you meant. Let them argue about it. Let them build myths around you. And here's the twist. The version of you they create in their minds will always be more powerful than the version you try to explain. This is not about deception. It's about discipline. Control what they can see, and they'll never touch what they can't. You are not here to be the life of the party. You're not here to entertain or impress. You are not a performer. You are the standard. And standards don't perform. They are either met or feared. When you walk into a room, you don't adapt to its rhythm. You set it. Others raise their voice. You lower yours. Others demand attention. You withdraw it. You don't chase connection. You create curiosity. And curiosity is a slow-burning obsession. Let them wonder why you're calm when they're anxious. Let them question why you smile only once, then go silent. Let them try to decode your mood, your words, your posture. While they scramble to adjust, you've already bent them, without even trying. Here's the truth most men never understand. Aura isn't something you perform in front of others. Aura is something you build when no one is watching. It's forged in silence. In the way you sit alone. In the way you eat, sleep, and move. Not for show, but for self-respect. You become a man of weight by mastering yourself first. No one follows a man who cannot command his own mind. So start with small things. Slow your walk. Still your hands. Breathe deeper. Think longer before speaking. Get comfortable in your own silence. Make peace with the void most people run from. Because once you can sit with silence and not need to fill it, you've already surpassed 99% of men. That's where the real aura starts. You don't owe anyone an explanation for your quiet. You don't owe anyone a smile just to be liked. You don't owe the world your availability, your warmth, your instant reply. Let others flood the space with effort. You pull back. You offer less. And suddenly, every glance you give becomes rare. Every word you speak becomes gold. This is what makes your presence expensive. Because what is rare is respected. What is always available is taken for granted. You must become the man who has seen less, but felt more. This is just the beginning. You're not here to impress. You're here to disrupt. You're not here to explain yourself. You're here to be misunderstood and still obeyed. The next time you enter a room, don't perform. Don't chase energy. Bring it. Let your silence do the talking. Let your stillness carry weight. Because from this moment forward, you're not just a man. You are an atmosphere. And this is how kings are born. Most men believe that strength is about being loud, being assertive, clear, transparent. But here's what Machiavelli would whisper in your ear. Transparency is a liability. Predictability is a death sentence. And visibility is vulnerability. If they can read you, they can prepare for you. If they can predict you, they can neutralize you. And if they can define you, they can dismiss you. Let that sink in. You must not be understood. You must be interpreted, and misinterpreted, and debated. Because while they're trying to figure you out, you've already made them move the way you wanted. Look around. Most people are easy to read. They wear their hearts on their sleeves. Their emotions are on display. Their face betrays their thoughts. Their voice gives away their fear. Their reactions, completely predictable. But you are different. Your face must be unreadable. Not cold, not aggressive, just calm. Calm like a frozen lake. Still, but hiding pressure beneath. No default smiles, no constant nodding. Your resting expression is neutral, controlled, impossible to pin down. Because once people stop being able to read your face, they start projecting their own fears onto it. They assign you power you never asked for. They see mystery, and they assume it means danger or wisdom or both. This is psychological warfare, and your weapon is silence. You don't speak to explain. You speak to provoke thought. You don't give full answers. You give fragments, riddles, paradoxes. Let them finish the sentence in their own mind. Let them build theories around what you meant. And here's the truth. The version of you they create will always be more intimidating, more powerful, more legendary than any version you could have explained. Why? Because when the human mind doesn't know the full story, it fills in the blanks with fear. And fear is more powerful than facts. So stop telling them everything. Don't announce your plans. Don't defend your opinions. Don't explain your behavior. Silence is your strategy. Let people argue about you when you leave the room. Let them wonder what you're really thinking. Let them obsess and never confirm. Imagine this. You show warmth one day, then cold the next. You praise someone quietly, and then disappear for a week. You listen intently in one conversation and walk away mid-sentence the next. You are not unstable. You are unpredictable. And that unpredictability is terrifying to the average person. It keeps them off balance, unsure, submissive. Because deep down, humans crave rhythm, predictability, patterns. And when you deny them that, they submit in confusion. They become more cautious around you, more careful with their words, more aware of your moods, more afraid to disappoint you, even when you haven't said a word. That's dominance. Not through volume, but through psychological atmosphere. Here's a brutal truth. People crave what disappears. They desire what feels just out of reach, what they can't quite hold on to. So your attention must feel like a privilege, not a habit, not a guarantee, not a routine. You show interest, then withdraw. You engage, then vanish. You offer presence, then take it away. And every time you leave, they should feel like they lost something, like they did something wrong, like they missed their chance. That vacuum, that absence, that's the hook. It's the addiction they never see forming. Understand this clearly. Your aura is not your truth. It's a construct. It's architecture, design, psychological engineering. It's not about being your authentic self. It's about building the version of you that bends the room, that alters behavior without asking. You become a projection, a story, a symbol, not a man they know, but a man they can't stop thinking about. This is why Machiavelli said the prince must be feared more than loved. But the modern Machiavellian knows you don't need to be feared. You just need to be uncertain, unknown, unreachable, and yet unavoidable. And when they ask, why doesn't he open up? Why is he so quiet? What is he really thinking? Smile, then disappear. Because the moment they ask those questions, you've already won. From now on, you are not a man to be figured out. You are not a man to be understood. You are a puzzle, a storm behind glass, a presence so unsettling that people adjust their rhythm just to be near it. You've left the world of transparency behind and entered the domain of silent dominance. That's the second layer of Machiavellian aura, and we're only getting started. Stay composed, stay unreadable, stay feared. What happens when you're always available? They take you for granted. What happens when you always respond? They stop listening. What happens when you're constantly present? They stop feeling your presence. Because in this world, what is abundant is invisible, and what is rare becomes sacred. You're not here to be accessible. You're not here to be easy to reach, easy to read, or easy to forget. You are here to become expensive. And that begins with one thing: strategic absence. Ask yourself, when you enter a room, do people notice? Or do they expect you? If your presence is expected, predictable, frequent, you become a background character. But if your presence is rare, controlled, and precise, you become eventful. The truth is simple. People don't value what's always around. They value what they miss. So if you want your presence to be respected, it must be felt through its absence. Withdraw, not with malice, but with indifference, not to punish, but to train. Train the world to crave your attention, because they don't know when it will come again. Look at luxury, diamonds, private jets, masterpieces. Why are they valuable? Not because they're useful, but because they're rare. You must become the same. You don't walk into every room. You don't reply to every message. You don't appear in every conversation. You don't make yourself a fixture. You make yourself a symbol. When people notice you, it must feel like the universe shifted. Because you're not common. You're not convenient. calculated. That's what makes your presence magnetic and your absence devastating. Here's the brutal truth. You don't earn respect by being available. You earn it by being missed. Let them text and wait. Let them notice you haven't shown up. Let them feel your silence. You don't always need to say something. You don't always need to appear. In fact, silence often says more than words ever could. When you vanish from the room, the group, the routine, you force people to reflect. They begin replaying your last words, your last glance, your last action. They question if something's changed. They feel your void. And in that void, they assign you value. Not because you asked for it, but because you withdrew it. Machiavelli didn't just believe in controlling people. He believed in timing. He understood that showing up when it's least expected or least convenient changes everything. That's when people are off guard, emotional, chaotic. And in those moments, your calm becomes power. You don't appear when invited. You appear when needed. You show up not as a guest, but as a force of nature. Unexpected, unavoidable, unquestionable. Your energy hits harder because they weren't prepared to receive it. And your silence afterward leaves an echo that lasts longer than their applause ever would. People confuse withdrawal with insecurity. They assume silence means uncertainty. They assume absence means irrelevance. They are wrong. Your silence is surgical. Your absence is engineered. And when done right, it becomes a weapon more dangerous than words. Because it creates tension. It makes people question their standing with you. It makes them rehearse their next interaction. It puts you in their heads, long after you've left the room. This is not distance. It's dominance. And it only works when it's strategic. You don't withdraw randomly. You withdraw with purpose, to make an impression, to train behavior, to create gravity. Because the truth is, your value only rises when access is limited. Let's be clear. You can't perform rarity. You must live it. Stop showing up everywhere. Stop replying immediately. Stop offering your energy to everyone who asks for it. Make yourself earned, because when they finally get a moment of your time, when they finally receive a look, a word, a presence from you, it must matter. And it will matter, because it's rare. That is how kings live. That is how powerful men operate. And that is how you separate yourself from the noise. You don't demand attention. You train the world to crave it by starving them of it. So ask yourself, are you always available? Always explaining? Always present? Then you are already invisible. But if you choose the path of strategic absence, you will become unforgettable. Your silence will speak louder than their screams. Your withdrawal will echo louder than their presence. And your name will be whispered more in absence than theirs is in performance. That is how you build an aura, not by adding more noise, but by taking it away. Not by being everywhere, but by being missed everywhere. Become expensive. Become elusive. Become the rare force that bends the room and vanishes before they understand why. There's a reason mystics, prophets, and powerful leaders all share one trait. They never say everything, because once something is fully explained, it dies. But when something is uncertain, it becomes sacred. Your aura is no different. The more you reveal, the less they respect. The more you explain, the less they listen. The more you talk, the less weight your words carry. So practice restraint. Let them wonder. Let them imagine. Let them create stories about you. Because what they create is always more powerful than what you say. Mystery builds legends. Explanation builds mediocrity. Here's a rule. If they can predict your next move, you're already losing. So change your rhythm. Sometimes you respond, sometimes you don't. Sometimes you show warmth, other times you vanish. Sometimes you say yes, other times you say nothing. This inconsistency isn't confusion, it's control. It signals one thing: you don't operate by their rules. You don't belong in their emotional system, and that makes you dangerous. This is how powerful people bend others, not by force, but by unpredictability. You create tension, mystery, instability, and from that chaos, you control the outcome. In today's world, mystery is almost extinct. People post everything. They share their meals, their moods, their every thought. But what happens when you don't? You become intriguing. In a sea of oversharing, your silence becomes magnetic. They wonder what you're doing. They stalk your pages. They look for signs and find nothing. And in that void, they assign power. You don't even have to speak. Your absence makes them talk about you. Let others live publicly. You live strategically, because what they can't see, they can't attack. And what they can't predict, they can never control. You want to be powerful? Become what they can't explain. Become what they can't define. Become the unknown factor in every room. That doesn't mean you become random. It means you become unreadable, disciplined, cold, surgical. Where others react, you observe. Where others explain, you withhold. Where others rush, you wait. Because your presence doesn't just confuse them, it haunts them. That's the ultimate weapon, not being stronger, louder, or faster, but being unknowable. In a world starving for clarity, be the man they can't understand, the man they whisper about, the man they feel but can't touch, the man who moves without pattern, speaks without warning, and disappears before they're ready. This is not just strategy. It's warfare. And it's how you rise. Not through confrontation, but through mystery. You don't need them to like you. You don't even need them to understand you. You only need one thing: that they never figure you out. Because once they do, it's over. But if they never do, you win before the game even begins. There's a reason mystics, prophets, and powerful leaders all share one trait. They never say everything. Because once something is fully explained, it dies. But when something is uncertain, it becomes sacred. Your aura is no different. The more you reveal, the less they respect. The more you explain, the less they listen. The more you talk, the less weight your words carry. So practice restraint. Let them wonder. Let them imagine. Let them create stories about you. Because what they create is always more powerful than what you say. Mystery builds legends. Explanation builds mediocrity. Here's a rule: if they can predict your next move, you're already losing. So change your rhythm. Sometimes you respond, sometimes you don't. Sometimes you show warmth, other times you vanish. Sometimes you say yes, other times you say nothing. This inconsistency isn't confusion, it's control. It signals one thing: you don't operate by their rules. You don't belong in their emotional system, and that makes you dangerous. This is how powerful people bend others, not by force, but by unpredictability. You create tension, mystery, instability, and from that chaos, you control the outcome. In today's world, mystery is almost extinct. People post everything. They share their meals, their moods, their every thought. But what happens when you don't? You become intriguing. In a sea of oversharing, your silence becomes magnetic. They wonder what you're doing. They stalk your pages. They look for signs and find nothing. And in that void, they assign power. You don't even have to speak. Your absence makes them talk about you. Let others live publicly. You live strategically, because what they can't see, they can't attack. And what they can't predict, they can never control. You want to be powerful? Become what they can't explain. Become what they can't define. Become the unknown factor in every room. That doesn't mean you become random. It means you become unreadable, disciplined, cold, surgical. Where others react, you observe. Where others explain, you withhold. Where others rush, you wait. Because your presence doesn't just confuse them, it haunts them. That's the ultimate weapon, not being stronger, louder, or faster, but being unknowable. In a world starving for clarity, be the man they can't understand, the man they whisper about, the man they feel but can't touch, the man who moves without pattern, speaks without warning, and disappears before they're ready. This is not just strategy. It's warfare, and it's how you rise, not through confrontation, but through mystery. You don't need them to like you. You don't even need them to understand you. You only need one thing, that they never figure you out. Because once they do, it's over. But if they never do, you win before the game even begins. Power isn't always presence. In fact, the strongest presence is often absence. Let that sink in. Because we live in a world that rewards noise. More posts, more calls, more texts, more hustle. But Machiavelli knew something most men still don't. Silence is a weapon. And disappearing at the right time? That's not weakness. It's warfare. Understand this. Your presence only has power if your absence is felt. Let me say that again. Your presence only has power if your absence is felt. If people don't notice when you're gone, they never valued you when you were there. That means showing up constantly, always available, always reachable, always present, cheapens you. Think of yourself like a rare stone. If they can see it anytime they want, it loses all mystique. But if it vanishes for a while, and they don't know when it'll return, it becomes precious, desired, obsessed over. So here's the truth. To increase your value in any room, any group, any relationship, sometimes you must leave it. Machiavelli didn't just teach how to conquer, he taught how to disappear strategically. Why? Because every presence has a curve. First, it fascinates. Then, it becomes familiar. And finally, it's ignored. Unless you leave. Leave before they're done with you. Leave while they still want more. Leave before you're normalized. That absence becomes a vacuum. And vacuums pull people in. They start wondering, where did he go? Why isn't he responding? Did I do something wrong? Is he moving on? This isn't cruelty. It's control. You are teaching them to value your presence by letting them feel your absence. The human mind fills gaps with stories. When you're silent, they create meaning. When you disappear, they imagine reasons. And those imagined reasons are always more powerful than anything you could say. One moment of absence can ignite an obsession. One unanswered message can stir self-doubt. One quiet withdrawal can flip the power dynamic. Not because you're manipulating, but because you're training their subconscious to respect your energy. The key? Make your absence intentional, not reactive. Don't disappear because you're emotional. Disappear because you're dangerous. Because you move on your own time. Because your value is too high to be constantly on display. The rarest thing in the market always has the highest price. So why are you always available? Why are you replying instantly? Why are you constantly explaining yourself? That's not generosity. That's desperation. Every time you show up without being missed, you devalue yourself. Every time you over-communicate, you become forgettable. Your energy should be a limited commodity. Not everyone gets it. Not all the time. Not for free. Let them earn your return. Let them feel the cost of your absence, because only then will they understand the worth of your presence. Now let's talk psychology. When you withdraw at the peak of connection, emotional, intellectual, or social, you interrupt a pattern. And the human brain hates interrupted patterns. It starts obsessing over closure. Why did he leave? Why now? Will he come back? This creates tension. And tension is the birthplace of fascination. The silence starts echoing louder than any speech. And your aura begins to grow. You become larger in absence than you ever were in presence. That's real power. Let's get tactical. In relationships, stop being always available. Don't respond instantly. Don't always explain yourself. Take time away, intentionally. In business, stop oversharing your plans. Build in silence. Let success announce your return. In friendships, stop overextending. Pull back sometimes. Let others reach out. Let them notice the silence. Because when your energy becomes rare, it becomes respected. You don't demand value. You create it through absence. Remember, even kings retreat to build empires. And when they return, they don't ask for loyalty. They receive it. What excites more? The meal or the wait? The kiss or the build-up? The text or the anticipation of the text? It's not the thing itself. It's the gap between desire and satisfaction. And when you learn to control that gap, you control minds. That's what absence does. It creates space. And space is where obsession grows. You want people thinking about you when you're not there? Then don't always be there. Make your attention feel like a reward. Make your time feel like currency. Make your presence feel like a gift. Absence is only half the game. The other half, the return. When you reappear, do it with strength. You're not just coming back. You're descending, like a king, with presence, precision, and power. You say less and mean more. You move slower, but command more. Because your absence has already done the work. They've missed you. They've questioned themselves. They've remembered your value. And now, your return is not just noticed. It's celebrated. But don't return to be available again. Return to remind them who you are. Return to reset the tone. Return to increase the distance between you and everyone else. That is how powerful presence is built. Through absence. Never forget. If your presence isn't respected, withdraw. If your value is taken for granted, disappear. If you want to be unforgettable, be unseen. The world is drowning in noise. But silence. Silence cuts deeper. Let others burn themselves out trying to be everywhere. You disappear and return when the room is ready to bow. In the end, the greatest power isn't in words. It isn't in movement. It's in silence. Stillness. That quiet energy that fills a room the moment you enter. This is where Machiavelli's true genius shines. He understood that true dominance is atmospheric. It's not what you say. It's what your presence does to others, even before you speak. Think about it. When chaos erupts, who do people turn to? The loudest voice? Number. They turn to the one who remains unshaken, the one who is calm like a mountain, steady like gravity. Stillness isn't weakness. It's control. It unnerves others because it's unnatural. Most people are wired to react, to fidget, to fill silence with noise. But you create the silence. You sit like you own time. You move like nothing is rushing you. And in that stillness, you create tension. Tension that demands attention. Tension that commands respect. When you enter a space and immediately sit quietly, you unsettle the rhythm. You force others to adjust. They look at you twice. They hesitate before speaking. The air changes. Because you are not a part of their noise. You are the pause in the noise, the space they can't fill. And that creates power. You don't have to raise your voice. You don't have to prove anything. You just have to be, and be still. Silence is not absence. Silence is presence without words. When you speak less, every word carries weight. Every pause builds suspense. Every look becomes a statement. Your silence speaks volumes louder than any boast. People start to wonder, what is he thinking? What is he planning? That curiosity draws them in. It controls the narrative without you ever saying a thing. Silence makes them project their fears, hopes, and doubts onto you, and that is the true psychological game. You don't tell your story. You let them write it, because what they imagine is always more powerful. Stillness is not just physical. It's emotional. It's mastery over your reactions. When provoked, you do not flinch. When challenged, you do not escalate. When ignored, you do not chase. You are a rock in a storm, unmoved, unshaken. Others may rage or panic. You observe, you calculate. You respond only when it serves your purpose. This emotional control unnerves others because they can't manipulate what doesn't react. They can't read what doesn't show. They can't break what doesn't bend. This power doesn't appear overnight. It is forged in daily discipline. Start by slowing down your movements. Speak deliberately. Each word chosen, each sentence measured. Practice sitting quietly in rooms without the need to fill silence. Watch conversations without jumping in. Breathe deeply to calm emotional storms inside. Withhold reactions to provocation. Master the art of waiting. Because stillness is a skill, and like any skill, it grows stronger with practice. Imagine walking into a room. No noise, no frantic energy, just you. You pause. You scan the room. Your eyes meet theirs with quiet authority. Your body relaxed, composed, in control. No need to prove, no need to explain. The room feels heavier. Conversations pause. Even the most confident hesitate. You have bent the space, without a word, without a gesture, just by being. That is Machiavellian presence. That is the final form of aura. Machiavelli once wrote, "Everyone sees what you appear to be. Few experience what you really are. Your stillness hides what you truly think, plan, or feel. You are a mystery wrapped in calm, and that mystery creates power. You don't rule with noise or force. You rule with silence and expectation. You are the silent tyrant, unseen, unheard, yet obeyed. To be the man who bends the room to his will without moving a finger, you must become like gravity, invisible, unavoidable, constant. They don't understand why they obey. They only know they must. This is the highest level of power. The power Machiavelli taught. The power you can claim. Not by speaking more, but by speaking less. Not by chasing attention, but by owning the silence. So stop trying to fill every space with words. Stop rushing to react. Stop proving yourself to everyone. Master stillness. Own silence. Become the presence they can't ignore. And watch as the world quietly, inevitably, bends to your will. Because true power is not heard. It is felt.